See, am I live yet? There we go. I'm live. All right, so I'm waiting for Ethan Van Sciver. Hasn't responded yet. He knew it was today at 4, so I don't know. Maybe he got busy or something. I haven't heard anything from him yet. But we can just talk about comics right now while we wait for him. So, what do you guys want to talk about? I'm thinking about talking about what's it called? The current Superman storyline going on in Apocalypse with the absence of Darkseid and everyone thinking Superman's their savior. If you guys are, I can't remember the name of the storyline, but I think the final issue of it comes out tomorrow. It's been really good so far. Ethan Van Sciver is he's a comic book artist. He's one of my favorite. He was in my top 10 comic book artist videos that I made. He's my favorite Green Lantern artist. And hopefully he should be showing up any minute. I'm just waiting on him right now. But I said at 4 o'clock I was going to start. And I didn't want to, just sit here waiting the whole time. So I just started to start now. So we can talk about comics. I can talk about comics with you guys while we wait for him. Sorry that he's not here yet. He's going to be here, hopefully. I'm just going to tag him in a tweet. Maybe you'll see that because he's not on the DMs. I think he's busy with something. I don't know what's going on. What's your most expensive comic? Probably my Deathstroke first appearance. I got signed by George Perez. That's probably my most expensive comic. I don't know how much it's worth, but I would imagine that's the most expensive. I like Doomsday Clock, but it's just a lot of setup. Yes, I read the first issue of Doomsday Clock. I read it digitally, and then the other day, I just got like the first issue of it actually in print. But yeah, Doomsday Clock, first issue pretty good, but it's a lot of setup, like a whole lot of setup. I'm excited to see how it goes, though, because, well, first, let's see in the chat. Let's see, what are you, like, are any of you guys worried about Doomsday Clock spoilers? That's what I want to know from you guys. Read any Star Wars comics lately? Not lately, but I just started a poll list, and I've got Darth Vader on it, so I'll be catching up with Darth Vader. Sup, JDJ? How's it going? Oh, he's here. There we go.
Hey, I finally made it.
Okay. Better late than never. Only 4 minutes. Yeah. I can hear you good. Let's just see if, if everything's good on the stream end, I think. Everything looks good. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to ask you was, like, what set you on this journey to where you're now sort of on this, like, man of the people type deal? Because, the whole thing happened a while ago where people tried to slander you. You went away from Twitter for a bit, and you came back as, like, this force of nature, just, like, for the fans. And, like, what sparked that for you? Frozen? Did it just cut out?
Yeah. You froze all of a sudden. It was really cool, actually. It was a nice special effect. Your voice ground to a halt.
I just stopped. Okay. So, anyways, hopefully it comes through clear now. But what I was saying was, like, what sort of, like, sets you on your journey now to where, like, you started your YouTube channel and you've been, like, this big comic pro for the fans? Because I remember, like, that whole thing happened where a bunch of people tried to slander you. You went away for a bit from Twitter, and then you came back as, like, this force of nature for the fans. Like, what really, like, sets you on that journey?
Oh, well, first of all, I discovered a YouTube channel called Diversity in Comics. Comics was run by a friend of mine, but I didn't know he had all these opinions. Early on, when he had his channel, he was talking about how professionals treat the fans. I listened to him, and it really struck me in the heart. I just thought, boy, he's absolutely right. When you're famous, Southern Comics, you get a whole lot of followers on social media, and you think, wow, opinion about everything. Not true. And mostly they just want to talk about comics. And I think a lot of my fellow professionals have that delusion that, like, everybody wants to hear their political opinions, their opinions about everything that doesn't pertain to and pop culture and comics. I mean, those are the things your fans want to hear about. I thought about it and changed my heart and my effort, and came back on social media. And also, I decided, I found you. And I found Comicstorian and Comics Explained and guys like you who were just doing these awesome pop culture YouTube channels. And you can reach way more people on YouTube than you can on Facebook. So I decided, I was inspired by you guys basically, and decided to be the first pro to do this, or one of the first.
I think so. I've never heard of another comic book pro making a YouTube channel like you. I think like the biggest testament I could say to your channel was when I put out a tweet last night asking people like, what questions do you want me to ask Ethan Van Sciver? Someone replied saying, well, he's pretty much answered everything on his channel, so I don't know what to ask. I think that's like the biggest testament to your channel right there. By the way, his channel is the first link in the description for anyone that wants to check it out. It's Comic Artist Pro Secrets. It's the first link in the description.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing about having a YouTube channel. You know, I used to do a lot of touring. I would go to a lot of conventions and sign books and do sketches for people and really talk one-on-one with fans. But I think what's better than that, what works better is actually answering their questions and archiving, you know, these kind of Q&A sessions, but also doing drawing tutorials for beginners. You know, my attitude is that everyone loves to draw. I think you're not really that good at it. Everyone kind of loves to draw in their spare time. If I could create these little tutorials called Anyone Can Draw, anyone can draw whatever character.
I loved your Harvey Weinstein one, by the way. That was pretty great.
Yeah, that one was popular. Believe it or not, that one was really popular. But if I could do one of, you know, like an Anyone Can Draw and then teach everyone an easy way to draw every single comic book character, I think that would be a really cool use for a YouTube channel. And it's catching on. You know, I don't have that many followers, but it's growing pretty quickly. And my subs are pretty loyal and good. So
I'm hoping a lot of comic pros like follow in your tracks, because if you see, like, I see people on Twitter and in the comments of your videos always talking about how they're like, I bought this comic specifically because Ethan did this X, Y, or Z. And so like it shows that not only is it an awesome way to interact with fans, but also help sell books. And I think it's like really smart to do. I'm hoping other people will do that.
People take that for granted. I mean, promoting your books, I think people stop doing that, and you know, they just assume that fans are going to go and find their books anyway. Well, that's not the case. And you know, I'm doing an interview on my site right now on my YouTube page. Jones live Q&A interview. Kelly Jones is one of the premier Batman artists, and like all through the 90s, and he's just made a comeback. Like he's got a Dead Man hardcover. He's back drawing Batman. He draws this crazy, creepy gothic style that looks a little bit like Bernie Wrightson. Here's the thing. Younger comic fans don't know who he is. And also, you know, even guys my age who remember Kelly Jones from then don't know what he's up to. So my channel is now getting these guys on board and sitting down and talking one-on-one. They're answering questions of fans. We're doing live commentaries of one of their books, which I think goes over pretty well. I do commentaries of all my books and just show you all the hidden messages and all the secrets and tell you about the drama that went on kind of behind the scenes with editorial and fights that I may have had with writers and inkers and colorists, whatever it is. Fun to those well. But I mean, if everybody did those, I think people would go out to the comic book shops again.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it definitely helps to promote your books, especially the like as in depth as you're going. You're not just saying on Twitter, "Hey, I got this book." You're like telling everyone about like the behind the scenes of the book, which is really cool. And so I had like, let me see, I got some questions here that I wanted to ask you. So, at like the big two love having their like big comic events. What's probably what's your favorite like big event? Like a
of all time?
Yeah. Since there's been so many of them. Blackest Night?
Blackest Night, without question. And I was there at the ground floor of that. I had a conversation with Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns and I were really close working partners back then. This was like 2007 that we figured this out. And we were working on Sinestro Corps. We realized that Sinestro probably had a bunch of yellow rings. He should make his own army that would counter the Green Lanterns. And I asked him, I said, you know everything about Green Lantern. I'm just learning things about Green Lantern, Jeff. So my question is, like, why hasn't Sinestro ever formed a counter-revolutionary army? And also, if there's yellow to be a Green Lantern, and Guy Gardner had a yellow ring before, and you know, all this stuff, and then like Hal became Parallax, and so yellow and green keep kind of blending together. Are there blue rings? You know what I mean? Like there should be, because on the spectrum, Roy G. Biv, yellow is next to green, green's right in the middle. Isn't blue hope? And Jeff was just like, holy cow. And we grew the whole rainbow together. And one night it was just red is rage, orange is avarice, yellow is fear, blue is hope, indigo is compassion, violet is love, like a lust kind of love, like not necessarily a good kind of love. And we just, and then Jeff had this thing, he's like, the blackest night. There's this prophecy about the blackest night. I want to do Black Lanterns and have them be zombies of dead DC heroes and villains. And I mean, it's like, Dylan, just imagine having that conversation at 3 a.m. with Jeff Johns, and you're just scribbling things and drawing things. My mind. We immediately started putting this thing together. Symbols, new costumes, new characters. And I mean,
it's so weird when you like look at Green Lantern before you and Jeff got on it, and like how different to today. Like how much you guys revolutionized that whole universe of characters, like all the different cores, all the different colors. The fact that like none of that existed before you guys—that's insane to think about.
But it just felt like it always did exist. I mean, that's the thing. If you can go build a universe, you have to add things that feel like they belong there. Like you know, you couldn't do something like that with Spider-Man and say, well, why aren't there yellow spiders and blue spiders? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. But all of this stuff was kind of built into the franchise already and hidden behind all this dust and smoke and everything. And you just clear the dust and the smoke away and realize that this was there all along. Covering the mythos rather than creating the mythos, it almost feels like. And once you do something like that, and also the fans participating in it, to me at conventions, and they want me to draw Marvel characters. Can you imagine Wolverine with a Red Lantern ring, or the Hulk with a Red Lantern ring? I mean, just
so cool,
totally awesome. Fans are actually doing sketch art of that, like fan art. I think that was the biggest event. Might have been the biggest event of Crisis was pretty big. Blackest Night was very big, very big.
A lot of people were brought back during that.
Yeah,
I mean, Hawkman, all of them coming back, and then you had some people that were at peace but that couldn't come back. Wasn't it like Hawk and Dove, I think, or one of them that was at peace, so they like couldn't come back? That was an interesting concept too. That like if you were at peace, the black ring could not bring you back. I thought that was pretty cool. How it's not like, okay, the black rings can bring anyone back. Because no, if you're at peace, you just can't come back at all.
That's very cool. That makes sense.
I'm hoping you and Jeff get on a book again soon, like at least just a mini series or something. They should give you guys like an Earth 1 story or something, like how they do all the different Earth 1 series, like Superman, Green Lantern's getting one soon, I think. You got Wonder Woman, Teen Titans. That'd be cool if you guys jumped on Earth 1 book together.
Well, it seems to happen every 3 years. And after we're done one project, I'm like, I can't imagine where it's going to happen again, because Jeff gets way too busy. And then he calls me up 3 years later, and you know, we end up doing something else. I mean, this latest time was DC Universe Rebirth, and Jeff called me up and said, "Whatever you're doing, you got to get off of it." And I was drawing, Green Lantern: Edge of Oblivion. I was so happy. I was on the 6-issue miniseries. 3 issues were done. I was about to start the 4th one. So I'm halfway through the 6-issue thing, and he says, "You got to get off of it. We're going to get somebody else to finish up that miniseries because you're going to bring back Wally West with me." And I was like, "You're kidding? That's awesome. Yes, of course." And he does that to me all the time. Like he'll call me and like say, you know, during Superman Batman, I was 3 issues into that. He's like, "I'm pulling you off of that to do Sinestro Corps." He pulled me off of something else to draw this 4-page spread for Green Lantern number 20 with all the lanterns on it. He's like, "This is going to take you days, so you're gonna have to start now," and all that stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. He gets busier and busier, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, it definitely seems like that, especially with Doomsday Clock, a whole like year of just a huge event. I love the fact that DC decided not to make that spread out into the other books too, especially with stuff like Secret Empire that just happened where it affects every book and no one cares about it. I like that Doomsday Clock is in its own thing, and then the rest of the books will catch up to it. And I wish like Marvel would learn from that.
Like I'm sure if you talk to Jeff, he would tell you that's his masterpiece. It's not his masterpiece. The next thing is going to be his masterpiece, and then the next thing after that is going to be his masterpiece. He always tops himself, and he's fun to watch. I'd love to work with him again. We'll see.
Hopefully that happens. Oh yeah, I've got a little story for you where I almost met you at MegaCon of 2014. Me and my brother. My brother's a huge Green Lantern fan. He's Green Lantern's well, Hal Jordan is his favorite character. He got into it because I had Green Lantern Rebirth, and then he read it and loved it, and that's what got him into the character. But you were we were only there for the day because I lived like 2 hours away from Orlando, and you were doing free sketches for people, and we were in line for an hour and a half. We're like, okay, we can't wait any longer because this is our one day to be here. We can't spend all day in line. I was so sad about it because I wasn't able to meet you that day. That was the one day I almost met you. It was at MegaCon Orlando. I was so upset about it because I only had that one day and I couldn't wait in line all day. But I waited a bit.
You and it sounds like I owe you a free sketch. I waited that long. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll meet at a YouTubers convention because I mean that is you go to the like what are they called?
I think that they've got like VidCon or something. But I'm going to what's it called, Emerald City Comic Con next year because I'm in Washington now, and that's like right in Seattle. So I'm going to be going to that. But another question I had for you was, what is your favorite Elseworlds story? Since there's been so many, what's your favorite Elseworlds story?
At DC, what is my favorite Elseworlds story?
It could be Marvel if you want. Just whatever your favorite Elseworlds story is.
Yeah, I think there was one that was like, what if Wolverine killed the Hulk? I remember that. Like, because remember when Wolverine first showed up, his first appearance, he was fighting the Hulk in Wendigo, and there was like a what if Wolverine killed the Hulk? And I remember that blowing my mind. I was like 14 when I read that. But I think my favorite what if or my favorite Elseworlds has to be the Batman Green Lantern one.
Oh yeah.
You know, that really kind of pointed the direction. You know, when Jeff and I were doing the Green Lantern ongoing series, I said, boy, it'd be so cool. Like, what? Like, is there another DC hero who could wear a green ring? And he said, yeah, there are probably a few of them. And I said, I think Batman could. Man, the Green Lantern ring. And you know what he did with it? He made his parents. Like, he made a construct of his parents. Like, it just came out of them. Like, they immediately before him, and he kind of fell to his knees and cried. Kind of. He didn't cry. A little tear. Very man.
Batman doesn't cry. Just sheds a single tear. I remember that being one of the coolest covers. I think it was Green Lantern number 9, where you drew it, where the Batman symbol is mixed with the Green Lantern symbol, and it's like popping out of his chest, and it's so cool looking. That was one of my favorite covers.
Thanks, man. That was fun to draw. When I turned that in, I was like, this isn't very good. And my editor was like, this is great. Are you kidding me? You don't know your own work. And I was like, okay. Yeah, everyone loves that cover, so it turned out all right. It's
amazing. So one thing I also want to ask you was, if you could work with any writer that you haven't already worked with, who would it be?
Who would you say? Who would you work with?
What, me?
Yeah.
Who would I work with? Man, that's hard. Well, Jeff Johns obviously my favorite, so it'd probably be him. But I don't know, because it'd be cool to work with like John Byrne, because I like that Superman run is one of my favorites and redefined the character so much. And also Chris Claremont would be so cool to work with.
Yeah. I haven't worked with Chris Claremont yet. I would love to do that, because I mean, he, like, most of the books I read when I was a kid were written by Chris Claremont. I would say right now Scott Snyder. And I'm talking to Scott Snyder, and I chat with him and everything, and I'm just kind of like, you know, my main thing, believe it or not, I'm like before I'm even like, I want to draw one of your stories, I'm like, come on my YouTube channel, I want to talk to you. And he's like, he says he'll like, let's talk about it in January. So, I mean, that would be huge to get him on Comic Artist Pro Secrets. Yeah, I'd like to work with Scott Snyder. But you know what I want to do more than anything right now is Flash. I'd love to go back to draw Flash again, because I didn't get my fill with Flash Rebirth. I didn't do enough of it. I'd like to do more. And the thing I'd like to do is I'd like to expand out the Thawne family. You know, Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. I just see him as aristocratic, kind of an academic. He's called Professor Zoom. I mean, so you picture like the most arrogant like teacher type. Upper class thinks he's way better than Barry Allen, who's just a blue collar fool as far as he's concerned. So the Thawns have their whole family. It's a whole dynasty, a whole legacy. I want to draw his wife. I want to draw his daughter. We know there's a character named Thaddeus Thawne, who's the reverse impulse, inertia. So you know, if the Allens, if the Flash family is that big, and that was the problem with Flash Rebirth. I told Jeff this when we were doing it. I was like, you've got Barry, Wally, you've got Liberty Bell, you've got the new Impulse, you've got Bart as Kid Flash, you've got Max Mercury, you know, you've got all of these characters going up like against Professor Zoom, and it's like I can't make Professor Zoom look tough enough to fight all these Flashes. It's so hard. But if we just bring in the entire Thawne family, then I think that might be better, and just make them maniacal, like abusers of the negative Speed Force. I mean, you get excited about stuff like that. A chance to create like really like sick, like think of like the Kennedy family if they had a severe drug problem, as some of them do. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like super elitist, evil speedsters.
That'd be really interesting to see, especially seeing like the lengths that the Thawne family would go that the Flash family wouldn't, and seeing that contrast.
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, Dylan, the Thawns are all about blood. Like the Allens are like, hey, you know, family is family. I mean, if we love each other, we're family. So just because Jay Garrick isn't shared, you know, doesn't share blood with me, he's still my family. And the Thawns are the opposite. The Thawns are like, it's all about blood. You know, you belong to this family. And there's Bart Allen, who is actually the son of Don Allen and one of the Thawne girls. I can't remember who, but Melanie Thawne. Melanie Thawne. So Bart Allen is a half-breed. And it's like, imagine how Eobard Thawne would think of Bart. He's like, are you with them or are you with us? And
yeah,
Bart's
you can make
like,
him a centerpiece of that whole story.
absolutely. So get you excited? I mean, this is the stuff
That'd
of
be awesome.
yeah. So I would do that with Scott
Have you
Snyder.
talked to like Joshua Williamson at all?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Josh had a whole thing for me too. He wanted me to do a Eobard Thawne story with him, but I'm on Green Lantern for the time being. We'll see. I might change up next year.
What happened? What's going on exactly with him? Because I read the button, and like he completely like disappeared. But I heard they're like bringing him back on Flash Rebirth. Because like not your Flash Rebirth, but you know current Flash Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
I read the first volume. That's all I've read of that. Have they brought Zoom back again after the button, or is he still gone? I can't remember.
Well, Zoom can't really die because he exists in the timeline. I mean, the thing about it is that, you know, Zoom lives in, I think, the 30th century or something like that. And so he's able to travel back in time and create all kinds of mayhem and chaos, you know, that the Allens have to kind of undo. So just because Eobard Thawne dies at this particular moment doesn't mean he's not still alive in the 30th century or back in the 15th century or whatever it is. They travel the timeline.
True.
And that was another thing I really wanted to do. I wanted to say, look, the Thawns can change events. Like Eobard Thawne went back in time and totally changed things by killing Barry Allen's mother. And like, you know, the Allens can't do that. They can't travel back in time and change anything, but they can prevent things. They can prevent the Thawns from changing events in time. So that would be another purpose, like the Thawns going back and just changing things, trying to kill, trying to disrupt the Allen bloodline. And, you know, the good Flashes, the Allens and the Garricks and, you know, the Wests, trying to prevent them from doing that would be a lot of fun.
Well, you sold me. I'm down. I know everyone in the chat has been saying about how they would buy this book, by the way. So I think you got a lot of people backing you right now on this story about the Thawns.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, this is the stuff that, this is what's so great about working in comics, honestly. I mean, I spend my day just sitting around thinking about these characters and how I can kind of make them true to themselves, but expand the franchises as much as possible. And I mean, I've pushed Green Lantern with the help of some great writers, I think, to its limits. I mean, if you saw my toy collection of all these characters that exist now because of me and Jeff, you'd be pretty impressed. I mean, we did a good job of building up that franchise. But Flash, I think, could really use some of that energy. And it's going great right now, but I really would like to just work on that family dynamic.
That'd be so cool. So
We'll see.
have you ever thought about like doing your own creator own series or something like Jeff Lemire did with Sweet Tooth or something like that, or even like Sean Gordon Murphy's doing with Batman White Knight, like drawing and writing your own thing?
I thought about it in 2010. After Flash Rebirth, I was very confused about what I wanted to do next. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this one thing. And there are like 3 unfinished projects that exist. And I've been showing them on Comic Artist Pro Secrets, what exists of this. One of them is this massive event called Day of the Composites. And if you know who Composite Superman is,
Yeah,
he's the worst character in DC Silver Age history. He's so dumb, but I love him.
I love the design.
Yeah, he's just, okay, half of him is Superman, the other half of him is Batman, and he's split right down the middle, and then his face is green. And that's all. And like DC was embarrassed of him for so long, but the minute I saw him, I said, I could do stuff with him. Like I can do something with this character. So I had this idea of like these spores coming down from Earth. And let's say like Green Lantern and Flash were involved in something together. They were fighting somebody. These spores would come down, knock them out like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and combine them. And so there would be this kind of vegetable sort of base zombie clone of the 2 of them. And this was going to be called Day of the Composites. It would knock out the entire DC universe except for 2 people. And just basically, so this thing that's half Green Lantern, half Flash, will walk around and just only be able to speak, like it would have fake intelligence, only be able to speak lines of dialogue from each character's first appearance.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Just out of context, just crooked dialogue and everything. And they'd go after their families and friends and just murder them, I mean, essentially. So, the only survivors were Batman and this one kid who was working with Two-Face, whose name was Brian O'Neill. He's this redheaded Irish kid. And Two-Face gets knocked out immediately. Batman shows up and he grabs this kid, Brian O'Neill, and he's like, listen, it's time to come out of retirement. And Brian's like, he's like, I was this close to bringing down the Two-Face gang, the whole gang, and you did this to me now. And Batman's just like, look, enough of this. Two-Face is out of business. I need you to be him again. And Brian's just like, I haven't done that in 5 years. And he's like, now's the time. So suddenly this composite Robin and Superboy breaks into the Batcave, okay, this creepy thing, and grabs Batman by the neck. I mean, Superboy's half, just grabbing him by the neck. And Brian O'Neill's like, fine. And it hurts him. It hurts him to change. But he goes and becomes Plastic Man. And it's like he hasn't been Plastic Man in 5 years. He's been deep undercover as Brian O'Neill, infiltrating Two-Face's gang. And so the only 2 heroes left on Earth that are conscious are Batman and Plastic Man. So I was working on this with Gail Simone. It was 100 pages long. 55 pages of art exist. And then we stopped. So I've got this thing, and it's like, oh my God, Superman has been off planet while this is going on. And the Green Lantern Corps knows that they got Hal. Hal has been knocked out. He's composited. So you see Superman fly back towards Earth, and he's like, what the hell? Lois Lane is on the ground looking up, and the sky is green. The whole sky is green. Okay, it's turned from blue to green. And it's because Superman's standing there, and he goes, all of you move. There are 7,200 Green Lanterns, Corps members, that have quarantined the whole planet Earth with a green shield. And John Stewart flies up and goes, no, 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 Superman, we cannot let you in. We can't let you in because they got Hal. They're going to get you. The only people left standing are Batman and Plastic Man. If you come in there and the composites composite you, we're doomed. The planet's doomed, so you're not getting in. And Superman's like, all of you will move or I will move you. And the Green Lantern, John's like, all Corps, stand strong. And Superman just slingshots himself through the sun and comes back super powered. So the next thing you see is Lois on the ground. There's chaos. There's this composite Hawkman, Aquaman that's like causing chaos. And Lois looks up and the sky turns blue. And she's like, what the hell? And you just see Superman roaring through the atmosphere and 7,200 unconscious Green Lanterns floating behind him. And Superman's coming back to Earth. So this was this event that I was working on in 2010. So good. I'm going to talk about it in full on Comic Artist Pro and show you the art that exists and tell you why it didn't work. So there's that. And then there's another thing I talked about that was creator-owned called Bastardized. That was kind of like a zombie book about people not being zombies, but regressing back to sort of caveman manners, like becoming thuggish and rude and brutal to each other, violent, like people don't have manners anymore. So it's going to be kind of like a zombie apocalypse if people just lost their humanity. And there are about 5 issues of that that'll never see print.
That composite idea. Is there any chance of that come back as like an Elseworlds story? Because I really want that now.
Well, I'm going to do a video about it. You'll see it. You'll actually get to see what exists of it. I would like to do it all over again. I would like to start over from the beginning, because Day of the Composites, eventually what would happen is, like, in the story, like Hawkman, I think there was like composite Batgirl, Supergirl, and then composite Harley Quinn, Hawkgirl, and then composite Hawkman, Aquaman, all grabbed Lois Lane and kissed her. Like he just went in, Hawkman, Aquaman kissed her, Lois, on the mouth, and basically spit these kind of seeds into her mouth. And the virus. And so when Superman comes back to Earth, Superman finds Batman. They're talking about things, and Lois comes running up like, "Superman, you got to go," and just throws up all over him. And then that's how the composite Superman Batman comes to be. And then basically it's Plastic Man versus all the composites. It would have been the return of Plastic Man, essentially. It was my plan to return that character to the DCU.
I really hope that somehow happens. Even if it's not canon, at least in an Elseworlds story or something, because that sounds so cool. And the whole chat is lighting up about it, saying they want it. Like, everyone wants that. So, like, that'd be an amazing event. And I'm hoping it sees the light of day. I'm hoping the video you make blows up and DC realizes, hey, we should make this at least an Elseworlds story. That would be so cool.
It could have been an event like Blackest Night. It could have been that big. I don't know. Who knows? But guys, if you want to see it in the chat, I mean, sub to my channel, Comic Artist Pro Secrets, and or you just look me up and you'll find. It's
also linked in the description, so you just click.
Oh yeah. Because that'll be.
Someone in the chat. So someone in the chat asked, "Do you prefer Superman with the red trunks or without?"
I'm traditional. Sorry.
I'm the same way. I've heard, like, especially when they first did the Rebirth suit, there was they finally added the red boots back, but there was so much blue and there was no belt or trunks or anything to break it up, and I was just not a fan of the Rebirth suit at first. But now it's a bit better. But I wish they'd bring the trunks back. I don't think they ever will, but I really wish they would.
They might. I mean, this is true. This is the language of traditional superheroes. I think that you can't be embarrassed of it.
Yeah.
These costumes came from, old wrestling suits. I mean, that's just what tough guys wore in the 1930s. When you thought, when young men thought about tough guys, they thought of wrestlers. And so that's where those kind of trunks came from, and the spandex and everything. It's just the way superheroes look. You have to just embrace it. I would love to bring those trunks back. And I'm sure people disagree, but I like Superman the way he's always been.
I agree. I much prefer the red trunks. I love, actually, like the Max Fleischer cartoon Superman suit. I think that one looks really cool, and the way the symbol's done, I would like, because they did a throwback to that with Truth, which I hate. Like, I like the shirt, but I hate the design of the Truth Superman with the buzzed haircut and the jean. Oh, that was such a rough time for Superman. But because we endured all that, at least we got pre-New 52 Superman back, which I was so happy about.
We're getting better. I think Rebirth is a step in the right direction in almost every case. I mean, just the idea that I said on Twitter before Rebirth came out, I said one of the biggest problems at DC is that our heroes have lost their smile. And when I think about DC Comics, I think about like the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez images, like Super Friends.
Where you just I have that collection back there, actually.
You really? Oh, awesome. Okay, so they all have big smiles. They're flying at you. They look like they're your friends, and they're here to save the day. And then the villains are scary as hell. But look at the heroes. They're sunny and happy and optimistic, and they're going to solve all your problems. And that's what I love about DC characters. It's different than Marvel. Marvel characters are like they're like what you and I would be if we got superpowers. We'd still have flaws. But DC heroes are aspirational. They represent who we want to be, who we wish we could be. So, you know, I said, boy, I really miss our characters smiling. Not Batman, but Superman. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
Wonder Woman. They should be like these avatars for truth and justice and positivity. And I think that's where the Batman
Okay.
v Superman movie went wrong. You know, it's like it was too dark.
Yeah,
But
especially with Superman during Truth. That was so rough. It was really weird because he was sleeping with Wonder Woman and he would start like saying "ah hell" and stuff like that a lot more, and it didn't feel like Superman at all, which is weird because Greg Pak like did an Action Comics run that was really good up until Truth. Like I enjoyed it. I was like, man, finally something good from Superman New 52, and then it went to Truth and it was like, ah, what went wrong?
I think they're trying to do things like differently with him. I think that, you know, it might be, Dylan, that there are times in our history, in American history, where people don't need Superman, and so they're embarrassed of like, hey, an aw shucks, corn-fed farm boy that was raised really well by good parents, who would never sleep with Lois Lane out of wedlock, you know, or anything like that. He's a good boy. He's very traditional, and he represents what we should all kind of strive to be, not what we are. And I think during those periods, people become embarrassed of Superman, and they try to make him more edgy, and it just doesn't work. It feels bad. It feels
Yeah, it
bad.
does. It's just not Superman at all. And
Yeah.
that was one of my biggest complaints with like the whole Batman v Superman movie. Like prior to that, I made a video on like if you do a Death Superman movie, this is how I think it should be done. It's like one of the biggest elements is him and Lois need to be married because it changes it completely when she's sitting there holding Superman's dead body, like her husband that she's been married to, instead of this is just my boyfriend. Like it's a completely different dynamic. But in the movie, they completely failed that among many other things.
Superman Returns, he had a child out of wedlock with Lois Lane, and he was stalking her outside of her window. And I was just like, these people, they don't understand. Go back and watch the first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies. And that's Superman. That's who he is. It's impossible not to like him, and it's impossible not to immediately adopt him as your own personal hero. That's what got me into comics when I was 3 years old. I went to see that movie with my mom and dad, and I just realized, no, I love DC superheroes ever since. It's my personal mission to do what I can for them. You know, that's how I want to spend my life, devoted to making these characters as good as they can be.
I think you're definitely doing a great job so far, and especially with all those ideas you have, I can't wait for the future. What you're gonna do as well. Like, man, that's insane though. Like that whole composite idea. I'm really hoping something like that sees the light of day. So, is there any indie books that you're currently reading? Or any indie books you're into?
I read what people give me. I don't. The only indie book that I read, and I quit, by the way, recently, was Walking Dead. I've read Walking Dead all the way up to I think 160. I don't even know what number. But when they killed one of these main characters, and I don't even want to say because it's a spoiler, but they killed one of these main characters that had been around for a while, and the way they did it was kind of mushy. And then they spent a whole issue like holding hands. It was like it didn't feel real to me, and it felt really corny. And I went, I'm going to take a break from this book for a little while. So there's that. But mostly what I do is I go to conventions and I talk to people in Artist Alley who are starting indie companies, because that's how I started. And I buy books from them and I take them home and I read them, and just kind of try to give them some feedback. You know, I feel like it's kind of my job. Like I got so lucky in this business. I got so lucky. I started out with my little comic book Cyber Frog when I was 19. People were good enough to help me along, and I'm exactly where I want to be now at DC. I got to do that for more people myself. Like you owe it to small press guys to like read their book, give them encouragement, give them tips. If you can help them in any other way, do it. And by the way, buy their books. You know, it's like so many people walk around and they're just taking freebies from these guys. No. These guys, they're there to sell their comics. So buy their comics and buy all of them. DC guys, we can afford it. So, you know, it's like that's the thing. I just want to make and this is also like a mission statement of my channel, is to kind of make comics safer and more accessible for everyone. And that also means clearing the path for the new generation that's going to come in and try to do what I'm doing.
So do you think that Walking Dead has sort of hit this wall where it should try to end it now? Like they're sort of running out of ideas, like they've done everything they could do?
No, here's what I think about Walking Dead. The comic book is great. The comic book is really, really good. It always has surprises. It's just that I need to take a break from it now and then. Like I'll go by. Right now, I probably have 10 issues saved up that I can just sit down and just kind of plow through them, and that'll be fun. Worse problems. Do you watch the TV show?
Oh, sorry, cut out. What TV show?
The Walking Dead TV show. Do you watch it?
I watched the first 4 seasons. I really like season 1 and 2. 3 was okay. 4 was just so boring. I gave up. I did not like 4.
Yep. We exactly agree. Season 5 suddenly got with it. I mean, season 5 was great. It opened up real scary with a big problem, and then it kind of built and built and built to Negan. But the problem with Walking Dead, for the most part, is that they have a beginning and an end to their seasons, and then just the middle 8 episodes just ramble. There's no reason to watch them. Watch the first one and the last one, and that's all you need to do. And the rest of them are people talking about what they want to do, what they need to do, and there's no story at all. And I don't know why that is, because Robert Kirkman knows how to string you along with a story. He's great with cliffhangers. He's great with offbeat, off the wall, unexpected story surprises. The TV show wasn't that good. Should be better. I want it to end.
I wish they go something more like the first season format, where like the first season is like 6 or 8 episodes. I wish more TV shows wouldn't be afraid to go such short episode orders, because then it's so concise and it like allows to where every episode is important, instead of being like we need like with the CW shows, where it's like we need 20 something episodes. It's like if you have that many, it's a lot more quantity over quality. And I wish they'd go back to like the Netflix Marvel shows are only 13 episodes, which they could be like maybe a few episodes short, but that's like pretty much the perfect length. That's enough show, and like it's not too much where it drags on like with Walking Dead. If you look at the Walking Dead statistics, like how many people watch, the season premiere, mid-season finale, mid-season premiere, and season finale, 4 episodes are the only episodes anyone watches, because everyone knows those are the only episodes that matter.
Yeah, that's all you need. The best thing that I saw was Twin Peaks this year. Twin Peaks: The Return. I love that show. It was great. It was 18 episodes long, which felt like a dream come true to me. But then when it was over, I was just like, I know that it took them 4 years to make these 18 episodes. And I also know that that means it's going to be a long time before I get a season 4 if they do that. Unless season 4 is 6 episodes. Just get in and get out. Do your 6 episodes, give them to us, move on, do another 6. And I agree with you. I think that's the right way to do it.
Because it allows for where you don't have to like be like, oh man, we have to fill this episode. It's like, no, we can do it exactly how long the story should be. And I think that would help a lot. So one thing I would really want to ask you is, what hero do you think has the best rogues gallery? I know like everyone says Batman, Spider-Man. Superman's my favorite superhero, and I think he has the best rogues gallery. But who do you think has the best rogues gallery?
Well, I do agree, Batman and Spider-Man, obviously, but I mean, then again, I really like Green Lanterns, obviously, and then the best rogues gallery at DC, other than Batman, is the Flash. It's the Flash. Wonder Woman has cool villains, but a lot of them need to be built up more. I really like Dr. Poison. I had this whole thing that I was going to do with Jeff. Oh yeah. I forgot about this. Jeff and I were going to do, back in the like 2004, 2005, DC was doing these all-star lines. And it was like all-star Batman, and then they wanted to do all-star Wonder Woman. And they assigned it to Adam Hughes, but Adam Hughes didn't do anything. And so they asked me and Jeff if we would come in and do all-star Wonder Woman. And we're like, hell yeah, we'll do it. So we had this whole thing with this character, Dr. Poison. She was going to wear white, like, She was gonna look like an angel, and she was gonna be this angel of death that put down entire like cities of like sick people out of mercy. And she would ride this white horse that she would just like. I remember this whole scene where she was gonna gas this town of people that lived too close to a nuclear power plant, and she was just gonna doctor poison. She's like, I'm an angel, I'm doing it for love, you know, and just kill everybody in this town and walk. She was walking out of the city on this horse that eventually crumbled underneath her, you know, just poisoned and died, and she just kept walking. And so we're working on this, and Adam Hughes just said, hey man, that's my book. And he suddenly said, I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And so Jeff and I moved on to something else out of respect for Adam Hughes. But yeah, like that would have been cool. Wonder Woman has great villains: Dr. Psycho, Dr. Poison, Cheetah. I mean, Egg Foo Young was a weirdo. I mean, these are all great. You get excited about all this stuff. If you get on one of these characters, Dylan, if you ever become a comic book writer or artist, you can get excited about any one of these characters and their rogues gallery. You immediately start researching it and just get ideas. There's so much history.
I do agree that Flash has an amazing rogues gallery, but I feel like in the past couple of years, it's kind of slacked off to where every new villain is just another speedster. I feel like a lot of creativity has been lost in his rogues gallery lately, because it's like, okay, how do we get someone that can keep up with the Flash? Well, he's got to be another speedster, because like his villains are amazing, but the newer villains, like Godspeed was cool, but he was just another speedster. Then you got the New 52 Reverse Flash, which again, another speedster. I feel like they've like run out of ideas a lot with how to make new Flash villains. Do you have any ideas for like a new Flash villain, for like what you would do?
Well, I mean, people always used to say, you know, look, who can beat the Flash when he can run so fast? It's not about beating the Flash. The Flash considers himself protector of either Keystone or Central City, depending on who you're talking about, Wally or Barry. So all you have to do is find a way to hurt people, and you've beaten the Flash. You know, some of these guys are just psychotic murderers. Some of them are bank robbers. We're talking about the rogues gallery now, like the B-list. These two cities, Central City and Keystone City, are basically both Detroit. Central City is a little bit more upper class, but these are all blue collar people. These are all guys who work at steel mills. Their criminal class is an underclass. They just want to rob banks. They want to steal people, steal money. They want to murder. You know, these are just bad guys. Not world beating like conquerors. So more guys like that. If you can just cause a problem for the Flash where he can't be there in time, you're a formidable villain. So I love you know, Captain Cold. Mirror Master is a real creep. I love Mirror Master. Heat Wave, all of those original guys. Abracadabra. Who's that one guy? Dr. Alchemy. He's got a whole great rogues gallery that, you know, you could play with all day long. Jeff and I got together and did something called Iron Heights in 2001, and it was it introduced the prison, Keystone City, and all these new characters, all these new villains that were in it. So I feel like I've contributed 6 or 8 villains to the Flash. That some of them have been on the TV show and on Arrow. But yeah, I mean, put me in charge of that. Put me on that book, and I'll generate stuff. They won't be speedsters either.
I wish that'd be great, because like I said, those original Flash villains are great, like Mirror Master and all them. Like they're pretty cool. But then now it's just like they're repeating themselves. So that'd be so cool. A bunch of people are saying in the chat there's like a new villain, Blood something, in like the newest Rebirth arc that's apparently pretty good. But that's like the only one I've heard of. But anyways, so Superman is, I believe, both our favorite characters. So for you, what's the definitive? Yeah. I know Christopher is like the definitive Superman for you, but what's the definitive like comic book run for Superman?
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to say Man of Steel by John Byrne, because it's the first one that I read. It's the first comic book that I actually read. I had Superman comics my whole life, but I would just sort of flip through them and trace the pictures. I didn't actually read the stories. But when I was like 11 or 12, I read Man of Steel, and it really it meant a lot to me. I thank John Byrne for it years and years later, and he didn't care. That's how John Byrne is. But yeah, that is fantastic. I think Birthright is really good. Oh, there are just so many. It's just Then again, I would just go right back to Action Comics 1 and read the first 10 issues or so. Just go read the Golden Age stuff and get the sense of it. And it's not just the comics either. You mentioned the Fleischer cartoons. Those are super important.
I don't think in terms of animated Superman, nothing's reached the Fleischer cartoons because like a lot of because I grew up with the like I was born in '98, so I grew up with the animated Batman Superman, and I was so mad because being a Superman fan, like it was all about making Batman cooler and Superman be like the dumb one that punches stuff, and it
Yeah.
made me so angry because the original Fleischer Superman was so cool, but then that Superman like there's a part in the I even did a video on the Superman Batman Public Enemies by Jeff Loeb. I love that book, but the animated movie is pretty bad. There's a part in the movie where Superman's like, oh, because the kryptonite for those that don't know, like the big premise of the book is a giant kryptonite asteroid's coming to Earth, and Lex Luthor's president, so he blames Superman. He's like, hey, here's a $32 million bounty or whatever to kill Superman because he's the one that's going to get us all killed by this asteroid. And in the book, Superman goes and contacts Hero, who is the Asian toy man, to get because he knows he could create something that could destroy that. In the movie, Superman goes, oh, I'll go in a lead suit and go punch it. And Batman's like, oh, no, you idiot. That won't work. I have a plan. I'll go contact Toyman. And like stuff like that just made me so mad where they'd just be like, oh, Batman's got to one-up Superman every time. And I grew up with that, and it was like so annoying. But in the comics, it was completely different than like the animated stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Batman is wily smart, but Superman, I think, is more ethical and moral smart. He thinks with his heart a little bit more than Batman does. I wouldn't like if you're portraying Superman as dumb compared to Batman, you're doing it wrong. I agree with you there. I mean, Superman should never be, hey, I'm just gonna go punch it. That's just not who Superman is. Superman first thinks of everyone else around him, and then he thinks of himself. He's got a heavy weight on his shoulders. He's very, very smart. And if you watch those old Fleischer cartoons, that little smirk and wink that he used to do to the camera, it's like he's smarter than everyone around him.
I love that
He's
theme
outsmarted.
too for the Fleischer cartoons.
Oh yeah. Well, wait, how did it go?
It was something like I'm trying to remember
Sing
it. I got to get it up on YouTube now. It was. I just remember I love that thing because I first got it because like at Walmart they used to have like $2 DVDs at checkout, and one of them was the Fleischer cartoons, and my mom bought it for me, and I absolutely loved it. And I used to watch so much him like battling that scientist on the moon that like took Lois, and then there was the one with like the giant robots. It was so good, and like we haven't reached that sense with animated Superman. I wish we'd get another like great Superman cartoon with that. But yeah, like it was so good and it's so classic. Even like the zoo one, all the music of it, like how it would ramp up the more intense everything got, it would get louder. And I love Lois in that too. It was so good.
I'm gonna watch him that tonight. I got him over there. I'm down in the basement right now with my DVD collection. I've got so many like comic book related DVDs. I took a copy of The Dark Knight Returns on Blu-ray to a DC Summit meeting where everybody was there, and I just passed it around with a gold pen or a silver pen.
Everyone sign it.
Every artist, every writer. I mean, like people that are no longer with us, like Darwin Cook signed it. It's like Jim Lee drew a Batman on it. It's a treasure now.
That's so cool. Darwin Cook was my favorite Jonah Hex artist. Like, oh man, he drew Jonah Hex the best in my opinion. I love that. I'd love to see you draw some more Jonah Hex. I think you posted something on Twitter of like a drawing you did of Jonah Hex.
I never really tried though. If I tried, this is the thing. Like, give me Jonah Hex and let me think about it for a little while, and let me try hard about it. Darwin Cook was my favorite human being, period, by the way. What a great guy. You would have loved. Did you ever meet him since you went to MegaCon?
I never got to meet him.
He was always at MegaCon, but he was a super cool guy, a man's man. He just wanted to hang out and drink beers, and he had a great sense of humor. Yeah, I miss Darwin a lot. He was fun.
Because Jonah Hex is one of my favorite underrated characters. And I did get to meet Jimmy Palmiotti there, though. And he was so cool. Him and Dan DiDio were at the same booth when I met him there at MegaCon, and those guys were so cool. That's why I tried to convince them to bring Deathstroke back, because that was when Deathstroke's series had been canceled, and Jimmy Palmiotti wrote the Deathstroke Flashpoint book. So it's like, just please bring it back and get this guy to write it. But yeah, that was so cool getting to meet them at MegaCon. Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray did like the definitive Jonah Hex to me. Like they were on that book for like as long as like even like Jeff Johns were on Green Lantern. They were on it for a long time.
Yeah. They were doing a great job. They really found that character and defined him for this generation. Yeah, they're good good peoples.
I don't know what Justin Gray is doing now. I don't think he's doing anything for DC.
Really?
I think, yeah, he did some indie stuff. He did like a Lone Ranger for, I don't remember who had Lone Ranger, if it was like IDW or Boom or something like that.
Dynamite, probably.
Yeah, something like that. But since then, he hasn't done anything. But I'd love to see those guys bring Jonah Hex back. That's just be so cool. There's so many things you can do with him, especially with time travel. Like in what was it, in All-Star Western? They like Booster Gold messed with him and brought him to the present. That's actually one of my favorite moments of like how not to interject yourself into a character was like Jonah Hex. Booster Gold brings him to the present. And he's in the present. He gets a girlfriend. And the girlfriend like asks him what's his thought on gay marriage. And like this would be a part for them to like interject themselves. And you hear like Jimmy Palmiotti or something talking. But instead, Jonah Hex gives the most Jonah Hex answer possible. He's like, I don't care, but I don't see why anyone would ever want to get married. And it was like the perfect Jonah Hex moment. Like that is exactly what Jonah Hex would say in that situation. It was perfect. I wish like some other writers realize like write the character, not like what you believe, but what the character would say. And I love that moment so much.
Yeah. That's terrific. Yeah, you have to stay true to the character. You can't use the character as a mouthpiece for yourself. That's where people go wrong. Yeah,
it really sucks when you can hear like the writer talking instead of the character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great when someone like can make a great character moment like that. So if anyone's gotten in the chat has any questions, just let us know. I'm gonna like see if there's anything I missed in the chat. See, someone said I missed the old Mark Waid Flash stuff. Did you guys look at a lot of like Mark Waid Flash stuff when you and Jeff went on it?
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. I mean, that was the Flash that I was reading. You know, when I started working at DC, Mark Waid redefined Wally West. And we did an interview about it on Comic Artist Pro Secrets.
Yeah, watch that.
Yeah, great like moment where I asked Mark, I just said, were you always a Flash fan? And he's like, no, not really, not any more than any of the other characters at DC. But, you know, it's almost like destiny picked him to be the guy to define Flash, even though he wasn't the #1 Flash fan. That's kind of, sometimes it seems how it goes. But yeah, that was great stuff.
Like you with Green Lantern, how you were talking about how you did like knew nothing about Green Lantern, and then you came on and you and Jeff redefined Green Lantern, like created all the color spectrum and everything. Even though prior to that you were like the biggest Green Lantern fan.
Everything. I knew everything about Green Lantern, so I was able to ask him a lot of questions. But that's a good way to do it, though. Is just I don't know anything about this character. I haven't been prejudiced by other people's takes on the character, so I'm just going to learn the very bare minimum and then kind of be true to that and try to build on that and see what happens. And then you have somebody like Jeff to steer you the right way if you go astray. But yeah, and that's what happened to Mark Waid too, apparently.
Yeah. Someone asked on like, let me see. Someone on Twitter asked, what was it like to bring 2 icon characters back in Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth?
Okay, so that was awesome beyond belief. They, you know, Dan DiDio and Jeff Johns and Pete Tomasi kind of asked me if I would draw Hal Jordan Rebirth, the Green Lantern Rebirth book, and bring back Hal Jordan. And even though I wasn't a Green Lantern fan, I'd been working at DC long enough to know there used to be this internet group called HEAT, H-E-A-T. It stood for Hal Emerald Advancement Team. And they hated Kyle Rayner and they wanted Hal Jordan back.
My brother is the biggest Hal Jordan fan, and he hates Kyle Rayner with a passion.
He might have been on Heat. I mean, so like they used to harass DC editors, like bring Hal back. So I knew of this, and I knew that would be a hit book, and I knew I wanted it because I wanted a book that would sell. My whole thing was I want a big audience. And then Barry Allen was different because bringing back Barry Allen broke my heart a little bit. The way that worked out was I had been pushing. I think other people had been too, but I've been pushing for Barry Allen to return, and you know. Dan DiDio, let us do, you know, me and Jeff do Flash Rebirth. The Flash series is faltering right now. Let us take a shot at it. And he kept saying, no, because Barry Allen basically died a hero's death. He died well in Crisis. So we don't want to undo that. And I said, but that was 25 years ago. These kids don't know. They never saw that. They don't know who Barry is. And like we can give them a big event and you know, really touch on all that history. It'll be great. So finally, Jeff and I were working on Blackest Night this whole time. I've been doing the character designs and getting ready to do it. And Jeff called me up and said, yo, you know, they said that we could bring back Barry Allen. And I was like, what? I was like, sweet. So we'll do Blackest Night first, and then we'll do Flash Rebirth. And he's like, at the same time, you got to choose. And I'm like,
no, it's cutting out. Let's see, are you back? You just cut out.
And so I quit Blackest Night to do Flash Rebirth. So it's bittersweet.
Could you rewind like 2 minutes? It cut out for a bit. Yeah, it like went complete robotic and cut out.
Okay, so Jeff Johns asked me, he said, hey, they want us to do Flash Rebirth to bring back Barry. And I said, okay, well, yeah, you know, so we'll do Blackest Night and then we'll do Flash Rebirth. Want them both to happen at the same, they want them both to happen at the same time. So you've got to choose. And I thought about it and it broke my heart. And I just thought I could be the guy who brought back Hal Jordan and Barry Allen. And I just thought I better do Flash Rebirth. And then somebody else can do Blackest Night. It broke my heart because I'd really been working on Blackest Night. I knew it was going to be big. Had to let it go.
Oh man, that answers my question. I was wondering why you weren't on Blackest Night, considering how heavily you were involved in Green Lantern, and then like it was Ivan Reis who made that iconic cover of Hal in between all those Black Lanterns. That's so amazing looking.
It worked out the way it was supposed to. I mean, Ivan was the artist to draw that book. He did a great job. It was 9 issues long. I don't know if I could have kept the schedule and make it look as good as he did. And then on the other hand, looking back now, people kind of said, hey, you're the Rebirth guy, which paid off later when DC Rebirth came around, I think, too.
Yeah, someone just asked, I know your answer, but for people that don't know, Wally or Barry, and why is it Barry?
It's not. That's not the case. It's not. I want them both. I want them both around. I left things when Flash Rebirth ended. If you haven't read it yet, you should read it. When Flash Rebirth ended, that is the way I wanted to leave the Flash family. Okay, so they're all back. They're all at their best. There are 2 Flashes. There's Wally West and there's Barry Allen. I remember them saying, hey, we want to do a Wally West book and we'll call it All Flash. Like, so Wally West will be Flash, but he'll be all Flash. And then they said no, because other people can say, oh, you're all Flash and no substance or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, they undid it all after that with Flashpoint. I love them both. They're just 2 different characters. I don't prefer one or the other. Be drawing the Wally West book, I'd be thrilled. I'd be fine.
I wonder if we'll get a Wally West book, because Titans is the only book like he's attached to right now. I wonder if we'll go spin off on that, especially since everyone's theorizing what Bendis is going to write, and a bunch of people have been saying a solo Wally book. So I'd be down for a solo Wally book from Bendis.
I'll bet you he's going to do JLA.
JLA?
I think he's going to go right to the top. That's my guess.
I could see that happening, because a lot of people lately, I've seen like a lot of people are disappointed with the Justice League books right now. Mm-hmm. So if you got like a JLA book by Bendis, that would be huge.
It'd be awesome. Well, I got to go. I got to get to work now, my friend.
Okay.
I am so grateful that you hosted me, and I'm a big fan. I love your channel. I watch you playing video games. I don't have time to play video games like you do, although I love Battlefront. And the one game that I play video games nonstop between Christmas and New Year's, and it's an old game. Do you know what it is?
No clue. I've got no idea.
Rising 1.
What is it?
Dead Rising 1 or Dead Rising 2.
Oh, okay. I used to play Dead Rising 2. That's your favorite game?
That's my favorite game. I love it, and it doesn't get old to me. I still I live in that mall and that casino. So for 1 week, I do nothing but play video games, and that's the game I play.
That's pretty cool. So that's something I'm pretty sure everyone in the stream didn't know. Dead Rising, just go around that mall and run people over.
I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on. Again, everyone, link in the description to go check out his channel. He's going to be interviewing, who is it again that you're interviewing in like 2 days?
Yeah, we got Kelly Jones, Batman artist. We're going to do a live interview and chat with him Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please attend, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for the notification, obviously. And thank you again, Dylan. I really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you.
No problem. I had a lot of fun. It's so cool being able to talk to like one of my comic book idols. But anyways, yeah, man, I'll see you later.
All right, take care.